right. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for being here today to listen to our Intel recommendation. So just to kind of give you some information about what we'll be talking about today, our goal is to determine the feasibility of expanding the Intel brand into different products. So the conversation will mainly take by just establishing what is the objective, what is the goal, and what is the problem that we're hoping to address. Secondly, we're going to analyze the current situation that Intel is in, so just by conducting a situational analysis. Thirdly, we're going to talk about the alternatives for Intel to pursue and alternatives that we have thought of that could help Intel in their market share growth. Then we're going to be talking about the recommendations, our final recommendation to Intel, and end by discussing the implementation plan for a recommendation for Intel. So, moving forward into the problem statement, we're going to be determining how Intel is lagging behind its competitors in the product expansion. So, part of the problem is going to be talking through Intel having a strong presence and strong just base in the PC market. So PC markets have been very great for Intel and have provided a huge market share and revenue growth. But now we're wanting to determine, based on the sales and market information that we've received, that the PC market is currently stagnating and there is a steady growth that's being seen in just mobile technology such as PDAs and cell phones. We also want to evaluate whether or not it's a good time for us to shift into that market as well. So our main problem that we are here to discuss today is going to be, should Intel expand their branding campaign into different products? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass on the rest of the presentation over to Hayden so that he can talk to you guys further about the situation that we are currently in.
Thank you, Vanessa. So to understand the current situation, we're just going to look at first the basics of the situation. There you go. So looking at the PC market and the mobile market, who are we talking about as a consumer? Enterprise and individual consumers, with the PC market being dominated by the enterprise segment and the mobile device dominated by the consumer segment. What are we talking about? We're talking about processors and chipsets for mobile devices, specifically Intel's. When and where? This is 2002 when we're looking at this from a global perspective to gain a full understanding. And why are consumers concerned about these chips? Is because they want reliable communication in the mobile market, and also the most advanced and reliable computer to be used for business or personal use. And then how are they purchasing this? This is through the manufacturers on the PC and mobile device side, as well as retail stores such as Radio Shack or Best Buy. And now that we have the basics covered, we're going to look at the current situation from a market growth and market share perspective. So the current placement here with Intel inside is our placement in the PC market, which, as you can see, we are an industry leader. We have almost 4 times the market share as our next closest competitor. And we saw a 10% growth over the last 4 years, but we're projecting sales to slow down and move to the 4 or 5% range, which moves our Intel Inside and PC campaign into more of the cash cow segment. And then for the mobile device, we are very much new and a minority in that market share right now. But as you can see, there's a lot of potential for market growth, and we anticipate to gain more share as we move along over the next couple of years. And also customer segmentation with the current situation is that in the PC market, this is dominated by business enterprises, which accounts for almost 2/3 of sales, followed by the individual consumer, and just a little bit of education. And then with the mobile devices, this is predominantly used by the individual consumer. So moving into more of a deeper dive into the market share of the PCs, as you can see here, and Ed will comment on this later, we have a 78 to 79% market share in the PCs, and we've gained this through innovation and leading technology over the years. We're processing and putting out a new chip every year to keep up with the demand of speed and memory. And our next closest competitor is AMD, which has recently cornered a niche market in the gaming industry, as well as the value PC market. But with our big market share and our extensive R&D team, we're able to quickly allocate resources and gain a little bit of that share back, and we will continue to and expect to be around that 80% range over the next couple of years. And diving deeper into the mobile market, as you can see here, we only have a 1% share, but what really excites us is the market growth over the last 4 years and moving forward. From 97 to 2001, there was a huge jump of over 100%, but it's starting to slow down as more consumers in the US and globally start to use mobile phones, mobile devices. And we're really looking to capitalize on this emerging market moving forward. And not only do we look at the nature of our competitors, but we're also looking at external factors that could influence our decision-making process as we move forward. So first, let's bring you to the current economic downturn that's going on right now, which is one of the largest in history. And this was caused by the dot-com bubble bursting and the 9/11 attacks that have taken the NASDAQ and S&P 500 to some of the lowest marks that we've seen in recent years. But to echo something our CEO, Craig Barrett, says, just a simple saying we have at Intel is the only way out of a recession is to bring new products, new technology, new capability, and then make the end user excited about what we have to offer. So that's the current market situation. We also have a few other external factors in the consumer core values that they're really looking for: reliability in communications, and also freedom of choice and mobility with their mobile devices. We're also seeing high growth in microprocessor technology, which is largely attributed to us and our innovation. And then also, as we've covered, high growth in adaptation of mobile devices and PDAs. And then lastly, something from the political realm, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which is really cracking down on the financial reportings of companies, which is good for us because we have great financials and the revenues back it up. So with that being said, Ed is going to continue with the situational analysis.
So what I wanted to start by talking about is how we like to classify these different market segments of personal computers and mobile phones. So with mobile phones, what we're really looking at is that large change in demand and sales over the last 4 to 5 years, and that coupled with the fact that we don't have that established we don't have that established market share, that for us it really is a growth opportunity. It really has to be. So we've got that external growth coming from worldwide sales, but we've also got the opportunity to go in and get our foot more in the door. Now when it comes to personal computers, the growth is still there, but it's slowing. And we already own 78% of the market. So we're really established. We don't have to push as hard there as we do in mobile phones. So looking at some of our strengths, first off, our schedule for how we plan projects is that we intentionally want them to overlap. So for an example, when the Pentium 2 processor was finished, that team immediately moved forward to working on the Pentium 4 because the Pentium 3 was already in production. So this gives us the advantage of being able to always be working faster to innovate better than our competitors. Nextly, specifically for the mobile phone market, we already have in development an X-scale microprocessor that gives you more of the ability in a smartphone to actually be able to handle higher data loads, so that as the need for more RAM in phones and more processing power ramps up, we have that ability to really match that space. And lastly, our Intel Inside campaign was very successful, reaching out individually, person to person, to that consumer, where they may not have known what a microprocessor was, but they knew that we were there in their computer. As far as specific weaknesses, we do have a very, like I said before, very low market share in mobile phones, and that is something we do need to address through this. And that Intel Inside may not work for every customer out there. So in the past, we have tried to diversify that product portfolio, and really have not had great success moving into different spaces like MP3 players or other personal handheld devices. So it may not be that indicative that really Intel Inside would be the best way to go. But for opportunities, mobile phones and PDA demand is exploding, as you just saw. So it really gives us a section where even grabbing a small part of that market wallet just gives us so much opportunity to grow very, very quickly. And that dominant PC market share that we have gives us a buffer. It gives us kind of that safety zone where we've got the old standby that we can be there for, and we do still want to innovate for, but we don't have to be reckless when we're going out and pursuing new opportunities. We can do it without that fear, without those limitations. But yeah, some of those threats, like I just said, we do have that cash cow of PC sales, but PC sales are growing, and that market is somewhat in decline. We've also run into some problems of some of our competitors starting to catch up with us as far as innovating on the top end, which really hadn't been the case the last few years, because those competitors, for the most part, were focusing more on low-end products. So here's kind of how we can go and use all of our strengths really to go towards marketing new products and also how we market them right now. So firstly, with products, since we produce microprocessors, there are so many applications for using microprocessors that we really have to be always looking for what our customer really needs. But when we find those needs, we can address them, and we can design our product in the right way to make sure that we're meeting those needs. So nextly, on price, like I mentioned before, with that buffer, with that cash cow that we have in our back pocket, we've got more freedom to be able to pursue promotional pricing for our customers. And next, for promotion, we had a lot of success reaching out person to person with Intel Inside, and it's really that personal connection that we really want to keep fostering, where whether it's strictly in the bounds of how we've approached Intel Inside or other marketing campaigns before, the main goal is for our customers to know that we're just always there and we're always giving them the best that we can. And some of the ways we'd like to target that too are, we do want to be able to show them that we have the technical specifications. But that being said, that really is just for a certain place and time. You wouldn't want to be watching the Super Bowl and see somebody coming on talking about the speed of their microprocessor. So really, the best medium for that is print, text, where customers have more time to read into it if they really want to. Now, for things like our commercials, we really want to focus more on showing things in everyday life, building that connection, and occasionally something bolder, like our media spot that we had with the Blue Man Group. So that's all I had to share with you for our specific approaches. Next, Garrett's going to come up and talk to you more about some of our options moving forward.
Thank you, Ed. So as Hayden and Ed were alluding to, we've got a firm understanding now of these segments and Intel's place in it. Now I'm going to present you with the three options that we have on the table in terms of how to best solve this challenge. So option one is effectively do nothing. It is that we cement our dominance in the PC market, which, as Ed and Hayden alluded to earlier, our position is very strong currently. Our market share is far greater than any of our competitors. However, the downside to this approach, obviously, is that we will not be penetrating the fast-growing mobile device segment. Now, remember, PC sales as a percentage of revenue are going to make a minority of this business by 2005. That is a major disadvantage of this approach. Option two is that we elect to use the Intel Inside campaign to expand to the mobile device segment. Now, this is the pro of this, obviously, is that penetration of the mobile device segment certainly looks very promising in that it is a quickly growing segment and there is potential for great profit there. However, it is important to note that the Intel Inside campaign has been a PC-based campaign for many years now. Will customers, in the same way that they've gravitated towards the Intel Inside campaign for their PCs, embrace this campaign for their mobile devices as well? That's a big question mark. The other piece of this is that we've been able to market our microprocessors very effectively for PCs. Will that selling point matter as much in the mobile device segment? That's another big question mark. Option three is we go with a new campaign specifically tailored for the mobile device segment. Now, this has the same potential benefits as option two in that it will facilitate penetration of the mobile device segment. However, the cons are a little bit different in that it is a new campaign, so there is cost associated with developing that, obviously. There is a risk of low return, and additionally, there is the risk of competitor retaliation. So making waves in this market will certainly cause retaliation from TI, Motorola, and Qualcomm, the three leaders in this segment, and that is certainly something that we will have to address in the following segment that Amlan is going to present to us. So with that, I will hand this over to Amlan, who's going to talk about our specific recommendation.
So among the three options that Garrett discussed, we went with option number three, which is to have a brand new marketing campaign to approach mobile devices. Now, why do we need a brand new marketing campaign for mobile devices? Next slide, please. Right. First thing, mobile devices have a very different usability in comparison to personal computers. If that's the case, does our marketing approach remain the same for both the segments, both the markets, or do we change our marketing campaign based on how a person uses the product that we're trying to market. Secondly, Intel was the market leader, is the market leader for the PC segment. Hence, the Intel Inside campaign clearly worked for them. However, in the mobile devices segment, Intel is not the market leader. Texas Instrument is, Qualcomm is, Motorola is. Intel just holds 1% market share. So we need to have a much more aggressive marketing campaign in order to make people aware of what exactly is inside their phones. Now, like any other option, our option would obviously have certain limitations. Next slide, please. Right. First would be managing the marketing budget. What if we don't have enough money to bring in from the PC, what we earn from the PC umbrella onto the new campaign that we are planning to launch? If that doesn't happen, then we have to raise our own money to push the aggressive marketing campaign that we plan, and that in turn can push the prices to go up. Will that make the mobile manufacturers happy? Will that make the end customers happy? It's a high risk affair. Secondly, having two different marketing approaches for personal computers and PDAs and cell phones might just weaken the current position in the PC market that Intel already has. Now we've understood that, why did we go with option 3? Let's talk about why did we eliminate option 2 and option 1. So option 2 essentially spoke about using Intel Inside onto the mobile devices. Now, this might lead to certain confusion as to customers might just think, okay, Intel Inside was meant for PC computers, what are they trying to do here? There might be a slight gap which we don't want the customers to feel. Secondly, in the option 2 as well, does it really give the essence of what Intel Inside stands for from a mobile user perspective? In terms of option 1, it states that we stick with our PC segment and let's just not go into the mobile segment. But as Ed and Hayden had pointed out earlier, mobile segment is growing multifolds. So Intel would definitely be losing out on lots of revenues if we don't take that route. Hence, option 1 has been eliminated. All right. Now let's welcome Vanessa to talk about how we implement the option that we chose.
Thank you, Amlan. So today I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about how we propose to implement our recommendation for Intel. So, in the stages of a marketing campaign, we've got 3 main areas of focus: our ideation, our coordination, and our execution. So when we're thinking about ideation, we're defining the goals that we are hoping to accomplish for Intel. So with our goals is to increase our market share in mobile phones. We also want to identify what our customer base is. And lastly, we also want to brainstorm our marketing strategy to really go into the market and accomplish that goal. When we move on to the next phase of coordination, we're actually going to be looking into identifying target mediums. So identifying what channels we want to utilize to reach that customer base we're trying to attract. And we're also going to be establishing metrics that we're going to be looking at throughout the process just to make sure we're meeting those goals. And lastly, with the execution, you will see us launch our campaign, then identify our response for our customer base and making sure that we have appropriate responses ready to go for any type of situation that might come up. And lastly, we also will be analyzing the results from our campaign and making sure that we are truly meeting those goals that we set out to achieve in the first place, and that we are causing that positive impact in the community and our consumer base. So, how long would this take? So, when you're looking at our proposed timeline, you will see that it's about 2 months long. So I've broken up here the 3 stages that we will be conducting our marketing campaign. And here you could also see who is going to be in charge of these different stages, ranging from the campaign owner, the campaign manager, the designer. We're also looking at IT specialists. We're looking for graphic designers and such. So really making sure that we're making this a collaborative team effort to make sure that our goals are reached as effectively as possible from different perspectives and different ideas that we are getting from this collaborative and innovative type of environment. Now, when we're talking about the expected cost for such a marketing campaign, we're looking at a total of about $9.4 million. So here you can see that all the costs are broken down into the different types of channels and mediums that we will be targeting, as well as the salary of the employees that will be working on this project as well. So typically, whenever you are doing a B2B or B2C type of campaign advertising, you want to provide at least 10% of your revenue. So our budget is pretty high based on the revenue for Intel in 2001, which was $26,539 million. We do have a pretty ample spot, but we're also wanting to make sure that we are utilizing all of our funds as efficiently as possible and with what's needed. So this allows us room to be able to add more advertising if a type of refocusing needs to happen. And lastly, if our plan of marketing campaign for mobile phones does not take up as we had hoped it would take up, then we would definitely want to reassess our marketing campaign and also find areas of weaknesses, conduct surveys and focus groups to really find out where we missed the mark, and also be able to try again and improve that performance of the marketing campaign. If this is also something that does not work, we would also consider refocusing our new focus to the PDA consumer base and seeing how we can really grow that base and grow the market share that we have in that area. So, in summary, there is ample opportunity to expand Intel's products into there's ample opportunity to expand Intel's brand into different products, which for us, we are taking the focus of mobile phones. And also, there's lots of support from the current market in analyzing the market share, and Ed and Hayden providing us with insight into what the current trends are. We do see a support in it going forward towards the mobile phone market. And then creating a new campaign is a decision we have made, as you heard Amlan and Garrett talk about the different pros and cons and the different alternatives that could be considered, and ultimately the best consideration was creating a new campaign for Intel so that we can achieve that market share growth. And lastly, if all things come to worse, we are prepared to reassess and refocus our attention to a different market that we can provide Intel some market share in. So this is all for today, but we appreciate all your time and we are ready for any questions that you might have. Thank you.